How's it going, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the F1 2020 My Team Career Mode, where we're bringing Brabham back to the very top of Formula 1. In that last episode, we got back-to-back podiums at the Hanoi Vietnam Grand Prix. Got very, very lucky at the end, as I've ended up hitting the wall a couple of times on that final lap and managed to get away with it, but we did come away with P3, and we are the third fastest car coming in to this next round like we were previously, and we did have an upgrade to the weight redistribution as well into the Chinese Grand Prix now, and hopefully we can have a really good run and see how we get on. It's a good track, it's very tricky, it's technical, but hopefully we'll have a good one. Heading straight into qualifying one now, and it is a wet qualifying session for us. I have stuck with the dry setup because the race is going to be dry, so it'll be interesting to see how we go on. I did 4 or 5 laps in the first session just to try and get a feel for the track, what was quick, what wasn't quick, and on this lap I was gaining little bits here and there. If I made a mistake I'd lose a lot of time, as you do in the wet. High risk, but the reward is pretty high as well when you get it right. So this lap in general was good. The car obviously wasn't feeling 100% good in reality because we've got the dryer setup on. It was interesting to see if the other cars around us did stick a wet setup on, but we won't know that until the race. I'm not too sure how that's going to play out. I've gone pretty low on the downforce as well, which obviously in the wet isn't ideal at all, but we are about 2 tenths up on this lap. Managed to get a good exit out of that hairpin off the long back straight, and then through the final corner. Just there I felt the car oversteer and I had to commit to the exit. Ran wide, but it is what it is, and we ended up P11 and P12 for George and I respectively, which is great to see because we're right there with George in qualifying, which is really important. And Jordan King leading that session by half a second, which was really, really strange in that Alfa Romeo, but nevertheless, through the long turn one, it just seems to go on forever and ever and ever. It's hard. There's a couple of lines you can take through there, and then try not to go too deep into this one. You need to get a good exit as you're trying to turn and accelerate at the same time, trying to limit that oversteer, and then into the hairpin. Right-hander. Managed to clip the apex nicely. Okay exit. Felt like I could have rotated the car a little bit better, but again, with a wetter setup, we would have been coming through the quick left-hander. Now clipping the apex nicely, and then coming in to this left-hander here. Managed to grab a little bit of curb, about 1/10.5 up, but I think I managed to get a good exit out of it. A little bit of oversteer, but managed to get on the power nicely. Short shifting up the gears. 5th and then 6th gear as we come up over the curve. That curve actually slowed me down ever so slightly by sort of 1/10 and a bit by the end of the straight, and then into the hairpin. There's 2 ways you can take this hairpin: focus on the exit or roll speed through and cut the corner through over the curb a little bit, but I opted to try and get a good exit. Turned in way too early into the final corner, but you can kind of get away with it. We're 3.5 tenths quicker on that lap, and we are through to Q3, only just in P9, only about 1/10 off, really, half a tenth to Lance Stroll there, and then on my final lap in Q1, managed to get a decent lap in, but we're still P10, and managed to get a good run through for turn 1, turn 2, just before I've kind of turned in, got a bit of oversteer, but then I got a good exit because I was able to rotate the car better, and the exits are so important. Lost a bit of time on that curb, the tyres would slip, and I'm glad to see that's kind of realistic in the game as well. And then into this right-hander here, managed to get over the curb, nice apex, and then good exit out. I was really pleased with that, and this lap was actually pretty good. I managed to maximize it for the most part quite well. 6th gear through here, I just felt like it limited the rear tyres a lot better, and then coming on to this final back straight, turning and accelerating at the same time through here was really, really tricky, but managed to get a good run. We're 8.5 tenths up on our best time, and then turning in again, focusing on that exit, about 7 tenths, and then gaining a little bit on that exit up towards 9 tenths of a second. And then again, I keep turning in too early there. I'm not confident the car's going to rotate, so I was trying to get over the curve a bit, but 9 tenths up on our best lap there, and it is only P10 for us in qualifying. Now, in the race, I'd like to think we'll be a lot faster. George P4 is a fantastic result. It's where I expect him to be, and hopefully we can match him in the race and hopefully get some great points for the team.
It's time to find out which driver is up to the task of claiming the Chinese Grand Prix. We're here in Shanghai. Shanghai International Circuit then, a 16-corner high-speed thrill ride. The long and ever-tightening right-hander at turns 1 and 2 tests a driver's patience, and the flat, open to the elements location, tests their skill in a crosswind. 2 DRS zones will assist passing, and overtaking is available into turn 1, and of course down the kilometre-long back straight into the hairpin at turn 14. Let's run you through the driver grid order for today's exciting race. Valtteri Bottas lines up on pole position, and Lewis Hamilton completes the front row. Looking at the rest of today's grid, we have Leclerc, Russell, Sergio Perez, and Sainz, Albon, Verstappen, Ocon, and Mr. Monaco, Stroll, Norris, Pierre Gasly, and Kvyat, Giovinazzi, King, Daniel Ricciardo, and Kevin Magnussen, Grosjean, Schumacher, De Vries, and Nicholas Latifi. That's it then, it's time to go racing as we head to trackside for today's race.
There we have it, the end of our qualifying session in the wet, and I did stay with the dry setup knowing that the race was going to be dry even. So through those first 2 qualifying sessions, we were neck and neck as well. So it shows that hopefully the difficulty's in the right space. I didn't actually see, George did a good job. I think it was P4, which is fantastic for him. So he's got a great chance in this race. It is going to be a 1-stop race. 2-stop, I'm not confident with. You saw the 1-stop work really well in Hanoi, and this one's going to be very much the same. The tyre wear's not crazy, but that short stint on the softs, I think, is going to be probably not necessary. So we're going to go for the 1-stop, dry race coming up, and hopefully they stack a little bit of a wet setup on, so we'll be really, really quick in this race. Here we go. Ready for the start of the race. Get a good start. Try and get ahead of Ocon at least. Hopefully Verstappen as well. Great run off the line there. Up into P4. George right behind us in 5th. The inside of Leclerc. Ooh, bit of contact, but that's alright. Yellow flag somewhere at the back there. A bit of pressure here, should be alright. Mercedes are always super fast around this track. Good start, up to P3 from P10. Leclerc's on the softs as well, interesting call from him. I'd imagine most people are going 1-stop today. Great start, up to P3, first lap. Now it's time to try and set our sights on Hamilton. Really quick out of that second corner. Got that horribly wrong. Oh dear. Good run out of that corner there. Managed to gap them a little bit, use my ERS. And Mercedes are breaking away. They're too quick around this circuit. No chance of us catching them. I have to use my ERS out of there because they're, for whatever reason, when you're getting on the traction, they're really fast out of that corner. Messed that up as well. Brake way too deep. Why has he got so much pace through there? I know he's on the soft tyre, but it's an area I just struggle understeer. I'm not using that much wing. It's quite a low downforce setup because of this long straight that we've got. Trying to maximise the straight line speed as much as I can. Even still, car is a bit too understeery really for my liking, but I think it's definitely quicker. So I edge my back. Gonna have DRS, might come under a bit of pressure here. Should pit within the next 2 or 3 laps. So hopefully, and I think this is where I'm gaining because of the low downforce setup. I'm not going to come under as much pressure as I would have. I'm kind of sacrificing that middle sector to be really quick in a straight line. The Mercedes have just cleared off into the distance. 5.5 seconds to Hamilton even. Bottas in the lead. So much understeer through those 2 corners particularly is where I'm struggling the most. If I get on the ERS here, I'm always typically better than the AI out of that corner, that long right-hander, but even with DRS, they're not really catching, and I think that's down to the setup that I've put on. Get that ERS on again. Doing really well. Leclerc does have to stop twice, so he will be coming in the next few laps. See, even with the DRS, can't really catch me. I don't know whether that's the wet setup or the fact that I've put on a setup that's worthy, but there you go. Leclerc does pit behind us. Now we've got a little bit of a gap to George. Be interesting to see if he's capable of catching us in the same way that Leclerc was. See what his pace is like. Be interesting to see as we progress through this race. It's the first time me and George have been on track together like this at the same time. Oh, try to look behind me. At the same point on the track, same strategy, same sort of pace. So we can see how we get on. Hopefully we can come away with some good points. At least one of us on the podium in 3rd and 4th. It'd be lovely. It'd be fantastic for the team and the championship. And the Mercedes, look at the 2 of them, just 10 seconds is crazy. But a good exit, and again, I feel very comfortable and confident that they're not going to really catch me in a straight line as much as maybe we did in the last time we were here last season where we really struggled. It's just that middle sector really where I'll lose a lot of time. Turn 1 as well. I don't feel like I'm under too much pressure really. Only when I make a mistake are they really right behind me. A little bit through turn 1 because you're relying on the aero so much. Latifi's out of the race. Just understeer too much through turn 1, but then, you know, we get to the back straight and they can't get near me, so I think I'd rather that and deal with the inconsistencies through the corners, to be honest with you, on a track like this. Terrible exit there. Right behind me now, George is. Four laps till the pit window opens. George isn't really catching, to be honest. I make a mistake, but the tyres are starting to go off at about 40% now. but it's just turn one. The long corners are where I'm really struggling. Can't get the car rotated and turned enough. Like through there, I just really struggle. But in a straight line, I'm able to really sort of pull away, but they're not catching. So through there, gain a bit of time. At the moment, there's not much really going on. Been very, very quiet because the Mercedes has got 14-15 seconds on me. George is... he's there, but he's not catching, that's for sure. The gap's staying very, very stable. So at the moment, just waiting for these pit stops, which should be in a lap or two. I'll just double check now. And one more stop. Next lap round. So tell you what we'll do. We'll box this lap, and we're gonna do a bit of an undercut. Try and get in on that fresher set of tyres earlier. Try and break away from this pack a little bit if I can, and go from there. So we'll be coming in. And I'll get the fuel mixture ready to see, and we'll go on to rich fuel mix as we go along, and hopefully we can get a good pit stop, little cup of tea sip. In the meantime, if we get a good stop, yeah, 2.4, take that. Alright, we're going to go rich fuel mix for this out lap. And we're in a great gap. Hope I can catch Schumacher, our old teammate, by the time we get to the back straight, so I can get a bit of DRS. Push like crazy now. But Leclerc has to stop one more time. So, as we're going to go to the end, we're in a great position here to maintain this spot of... How are we going? Yeah, I'll drop that back down. A bit of pressure from Leclerc, but he's on the mediums. He's stopping one more time. There's no way he's doing a one stop, so he'll go drop way back behind us for only 3 seconds behind. So really, that little kink, that left-hander to try and get into the pits means you're quite slow. So hopefully, little sit. George is in the pits now. Gonna go rich fuel mix until. Sure we get out, try and get out ahead of him. I'm on a good lap now. It's my best lap so far of the race, as of at the moment. So got out, and we've gained a fair bit of time on him as well, which is good. They're all on the hards, so normal service has resumed now. And we're 2.6 ahead. That's really worked out. We've gained about 1.5 seconds probably on George, just from pitting that lap earlier. Get on the fresher set of tyres. Had a good out lap, and that second lap that I did was really good as well. So 2 laps earlier. Hopefully we'll be able to maintain that gap. And he had DRS as well. So hopefully we'll be able to just gap him a little bit. 1.8 now, 1.7. Maybe I'll start catching, I don't know. Thought it was such a shame that he didn't get points in the Tuscan GP. It was so close, kept himself clean, but you know, he's still battling a Ferrari, which is a shame that they're so slow. But at the same time, you have to say he's doing a fantastic job in that Williams. I'd love to see him in a Mercedes. soon as possible, really. Driving really well at the moment. And this was where our pace was here. George qualified 4th. Now with Leclerc dropping back a little bit as well, to now having to sort of pit again for him, this is kind of where our car's at, to be fair. And George showcasing that by qualifying so high up. It's really, really good, and the guys behind him aren't exactly catching him. He's maintaining good gaps. We're in a great chance to get top 3 in the championship personally, and for the team as well. We're in a great spot. If me and George can keep getting points collectively for throughout the rest of this season, I'd expect to win a few more races as well, to be honest. That's my target anyway. Yellow flag somewhere. Not sure what that's for. Seems like George is still there, so hopefully that's... I mean, a safety car wouldn't actually be ideal, really. Wonder what's happened. Podium pass comes out later today, I believe, or tomorrow. So I'm interested to see what sort of different liveries, different options we'll be able to get from that. Different emotes, different helmet designs, maybe something cool. Be interested to see how they update it. I think it could be a lot longer. I think that podium pass could be a lot longer. Personally, didn't take me long to reach the max on it, so I'd like to think that they'll make it longer with a lot more designs, a lot more integrated into it. Let me know what you think as well in the comments down below. With that podium pass, do you like it? I love the idea of it. It's just I think it needs to be longer, or have more things in it, or shorten the time frame that it is, because I think most people who play this game a bit probably finished it very, very early. Six laps to go. The gaps are just toing and froing depending on which sector we're in at the moment. George is doing a good job of keeping signs behind him as well, which is good. And there's Mercedes. 16 seconds to Bottas and 21 to Hamilton. Is crazy. It's kind of like real life, really, I suppose. I was going to say, did the patch include an update to the car's performance, but it was Sainz in P5 and Leclerc was P3, P4 at the time, so I'm going to take that as a no. Ferrari are still quite fast. All on the marbles there. Didn't get a good run. It's probably the closest George has been to me down the straight. But even then, he's not really catching. Will do now. I'm out of ERS, but even then, not by much. Bit wide there. This is the closest I'm going to come to being under pressure. Use up all that ERS. I'm really interested to see how he goes trying to catch me now. Yeah, it's starting to come. I'm going to have to go defensive here. My teammate. Good defensive driving. I don't want to mess George up in the way that I would mess another team up, because I don't want to damage his race, because we've got a great chance for P3 and P4 in this race, no matter which way it kind of goes. That's better. It's a good lap so far. Hamilton, fastest lap of the race, 1:33. It's the second faster. And then Bottas with the fastest lap of the race. They haven't even pitted either. If they really wanted to, they probably could. They've got enough of a gap. 20 seconds. My God. Two laps to go now. Just limit my mistakes, keep clean, and then as long as I get a good run out of here, I'm not worried about them coming at me. Hamilton again with the fastest lap of the race. Him and Bottas are trading places of that the last couple of laps. Last lap of the race. It's been a really boring race, I'll be honest. I've had nothing to say because there's nothing been going on. There are odd bits and pieces, but Leclerc made a poor choice. I think if Leclerc doesn't go on a 2-stop, this race becomes a lot more interesting, but me and George are to and fro with the pace. He catches me slightly, I'll pull away. Other than that, there's nothing going on. Cars felt pretty good. Been really quick in a straight line. That back straight, this is the area where I've struggled. But I started to find a decent little rhythm in the race. And a way to combat their pace through here in comparison to mine. You can see there, a little bit of a gap, but again, just make sure I'm good through here. 4th gear, limit the slip and just plant the throttle around the right-hander. I use my ERS, but you see he's 4/10ths back. Hamilton wins the race. Bottas fastest lap, extra point for him. You can see, even with ERS, he's got DRS, they can't catch me. There's no way he's going to send it. And he's not been overtaken either. And we'll come into the final corner. And what I'm really pleased with that. Great pace. Go on, P3. Super happy with P3 because that... I mean, starting 10th, I felt like in practice and qualifying, obviously qualifying I went for a dry setup, but driver of the day as well, super happy with that. Starting 10th, finishing 3rd, but what a haul of points for the team with George finishing 4th as well. That is fantastic for our championship fight. Not so much for Mercedes because you could see they're so far ahead of everyone else. But trying to finish 2nd at least if we can. And who knows, maybe we can get some upgrades in and we'll start beating Mercedes towards the end of the season, be the quickest car on the grid. But we'll have to wait and see with that. But P3, another podium, 3 podiums in a row now. And Albon P6. Red Bull, have been really struggling since the start of Season 2 here as well. So there we have it. Lewis Hamilton winning the Grand Prix from Valtteri Bottas, who did get fast laps, an extra point for him. We finished in P3 and George in P4. And also, one thing I would say, I'm really pleased with that. He was slightly quicker than me in the race, but he did DRS, whereas I didn't. So one thing I would say is that is exactly what I've been looking for with the difficulty, to have a close fight. If George is finishing P4, hopefully I'm P3 or P5 around there. If he's P10, then I should be 11th or 9th. So that should be where we are, and that's exactly what's happened. Our pace is very similar. In qualifying, obviously, got more out of the car, but I changed my setup to be very quick in this race, and it paid off today. Let's have a look at the standings as well. We can continue to be in P3. Bottas has taken a step ahead of us, but I'm not too worried about the Mercedes. If I can finish 3rd in this championship, I'll be super, super happy. We can finish ahead of Ferrari. George maintains his place in P7, but he will have gained on Leclerc because, as you can see here, Leclerc on that 2-stop messed himself up massively. Started 3rd, started 3rd, 2-stop, he finished 14th out of the points, so that was terrible for him. Had a really good launch off the line, up ahead of Max Verstappen there and Albon. Managed to sneak up the inside of the Ferrari, and then through here I had to get this move done. Up the inside of George, he managed to come at me ever so slightly, and then as we head into the next set of corners, I really wanted to get past Leclerc, shoved it up the inside and got it done, and that was a great sort of saving grace in our race, really. We were able to maintain this position, had to defend ever so slightly from him, but our pace down that back straight was phenomenal, and it allowed us to be really, really quick and be able to defend properly from the other cars. Ran a little bit wide there, get away with that on lap 1, to be fair. And then those two Mercedes were just so fast. While I was sort of concerned about what was going on behind me, next thing you know, they're 15 seconds up the road, and there's no chance of catching them. So even though he was on the... But he sent it there, didn't he? After that, I figured out a good rhythm through this set of corners. Previously I was struggling quite a lot, and this is probably the closest that George really got to me. A little bit wide there, that messed me up. Oh, he did a little bit of contact there. I didn't even notice that in the race. Didn't think he got that close to me, and fortunately he was able to maintain all of his front wing, because he's lucky that he didn't have a problem there, and then managed to pick up DRS from Schumacher, our old teammate there, who is also leading the Formula 2 championship now, by the way, and I'd love to see him win that championship. He's been very, very consistent in comparison to the others. Maybe not the fastest out and out, but certainly the most consistent. And here, this is the only time we had to defend, really, towards the, I think, second or third last lap from George, but we managed to defend quite nicely, and I was really consistent to the end of that race. And those two Brabham F1 cars going through turn 1 there, looking amazing. And then across the line, P3 for us and P4 for George in the Chinese Grand Prix. So Zandvoort next, and it's a very, very tricky circuit, and it's fast, it's flowing. We didn't have a great time there in the last round, last season even, so hopefully we can have a good one, and we've got a great haul of points from this last race in China. Also, having a look at the performance index, we are second best in the team's performance now, so hopefully that means consistent podiums for us heading for the rest of the season, and really work hard on getting those resource points in, upgrading the car to try and catch Mercedes, because they're so far ahead of everybody. It's crazy. You can see they're so much further up, but it's definitely possible, and we'll see how we go. As always, thank you ever so much for watching these videos. Leave a like and subscribe if you're new to the channel, and I'll see you guys on the next video. Cheers.